Hey everyone, welcome to Bluegrass Race Hub. We are here fresh off our championship races and NASCAR's final cutoff race here at Martinsville. And boy, we have a lot to talk about. Let's go. Hey everyone, my name is Bryce Hunter. I drive the number 9 Chevrolet in the Bluegrass Xfinity Series. And I'm joined on the podcast with the famous cast and crew. Alex?
That's me, your boy. The driver of the number 97 Chevrolet Silverado in the Truck Series, mostly sponsored by Tushy, sometimes sponsored by my favorite rappers of the 2000s. And for next season, a member of Your Name Here Motorsports in the Cup Series, running the 97 Camaro there as well. And last but not least, I know he likes it when I say it, the head motherfucker in charge of Bluegrass iRacing, my man, Jason Collins.
What's up, everybody? It's me, Jason Collins, former driver of the number 3. I was the reigning Xfinity Series champion, and then Brandon Robertson came and took that away since I didn't run the Xfinity Series this season. But we're here for a podcast with you guys. We're looking to have a discussion about Bluegrass. We got some NASCAR news, and go ahead and kick it off, Ross, if you're ready.
Yeah, well, getting into Bluegrass news for this week. I know everyone wants to hear what we have to say about our 3 championship winners. The Truck Series winner of 69 of Keith Hackney.
Yep.
The Xfinity, he does get it done. The Xfinity Series champion, as Jason stated before, the 2 of Brandon Robertson. And the Cup is the 71 of Cedric Hunter.
And all of those guys, big congratulations. Proud of everyone for running this, sticking with this season. I know it was had some ups and downs, but you had Keith Hackney come out, had a start in the back on last Monday, had a start in the back, and he worked his way all the way through a 20-something car field, or truck field, sorry, I should say. Looked really good on the long runs. I thought Bobby Hall had something for him. Bobby kind of stepped on his dick and going into the pits, slid through his box, gave up the lead. And when that happened, that unfortunately opened the door for Keith to just take off. You had Justin White. He ended up getting caught on pit road when there was a caution come out. Justin was fast. Justin was like really fast on the long run. He had a shot at it as well.
This is the most unfortunate timed caution I've ever seen on iRacing.
Yes.
It was crazy how that all played out, but he definitely had a shot to catch Keith, I believe. I think Bobby had a shot too until he, did what he did and got a little damage after the fact. I think he messed up on pit road twice, so that kind of marred him up, put him in behind the 8 ball. And at that point, Keith was just able to drive off. And, he showed what he's done all season. He dominated. Kept his composure, kept his head in the game, and just won. Man, I mean, he's a champ. You can't beat it. It's an amazing feeling when you work that hard for something and you're able to accomplish it.
Yeah, it just speaks, like you said, because Phoenix is not an easy track to pass at either. It's usually a single groove track, and when he's able to go from the back of the field due to penalty all the way up front, it just speaks volume what he can do, and hopefully we see him back next season. And but man, going back to that pit stop and the untimely caution, I got out of school and I was watching it and I was eating dinner, and I was like, Jace, that pit stop I believe was a perfectly timed, maybe a tad bit early, but I think it was
for Justin.
I can see for Justin, yes, I can see where his crew chief Nate was thinking there. Get tires on, and while Keith had and undercut him, yeah. And he had it all set up. He had good entry on pit road. The caution came out right before he hit his box, and trapped him a lap down, and unfortunately ended his night. But I believe now, even to today, that if that caution did not come out, he would have probably either fought Hackney really hard and be, we're battling coming to the checkered, or he passed Hackney and wins championship on that pit stop. But unfortunately, you would never know because caution came out.
Yep. And I understand the strategy better than most because your boy was on the exact same strategy. Not that I was racing for a championship, but I just wanted to like get my top 5 stats up or whatever. I think I ended up finishing 9th or something, but I was on the exact same thing as him, and when Justin got to me, I let him go because I wanted to see him and Keith have this big face off at the end, and I can't remember exactly where Bobby ended up, but man, in that first stage, he just drove away from the field for a long time, which obviously Keith was working through traffic and everything, but early on, I'm talking to Dave, my spotter, and like, Bobby's gonna win this shit, and no one could like what he was doing
gone,
the
dude.
times. He was flying.
He was gone till he. I mean, he was. I had picked him as a potential winner, and the dude led 54 laps. Keith led 97, which ended up being the most. But still, you look at Bobby, and after the mistake, he rallied back, and he still managed to get a P3 out of it. But if he could have maintained that track position. That's how important track position is. People don't realize when you have a field of 20 plus, like we had 19, I think 19, so almost 20. That's a pretty good sized field. I mean, it's not huge. It's not 30, 40 cars like NASCAR, but when you have a field that large and you have to start in the back and then come back to the front, especially that late in the race after, you've already went through
and it being Phoenix too.
Yeah. And you give up the track position and Keith he capitalized on it, man. He, at that point, all he had to do was hold on, and Newbert made a hell of a charge. Newbert, set the fastest lap of the race with a 27.041, which was 700s roughly. Yeah. 700s quicker than Hackney, who won a 27.111. So, I mean, it was a good race, man. Like the Truck Series race turned out to be really, really good. I mean, I thought Newbert had something for Hackney there at one point, but then he kind of started to fade.
There was a short time where I think I was still running in that vicinity, and Newbert got to me pretty quickly, and I let him truck on by, and it looked like he was kind of on his way, and then he kind of faded back to me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, all those guys were fast at different points of the race, and it's the way it is with every race. With whenever these cautions come out, it can be one guy's jackpot and the end of another guy's night, which is kind of what happened.
Well, so I know one of the things that we don't really normally talk about is what actually brought the caution out. So it was right after Ed. It was green flag run. We hadn't had that many accidents at this point. We only had 3 actual cautions. One was a stage caution. When Ed got fresh tires, he come around 2. What used to be. Wait, no,
4.
Yeah, come off 2. What used to be 4. On cold tires, was pushing it, looped the truck. That's what got Justin caught a lap down. It was unfortunate. I know Ed, he wasn't intentional. Ed wasn't trying to do anything. He was just driving hard at that point, and he just lost the truck coming off of 2, which was unfortunate for Ed. I hate to see him. He had a good run going as well.
That's all something we've all done. I mean, I trapped a teammate down at another league because I spun off. I think it was at Texas, and I spun off 4. So I mean, we've all done it. It sucks. It's you feel guilty afterwards.
Yeah, it's easy to get super aggressive coming off pit road, and you're trying to get back up to speed as fast as possible, especially at Phoenix, where in one turn you're already back to race pace off of pit road. So you want to get every bit you can on the apron down there, and cold tires and flat track, and that's how you end up where Ed was. It's unfortunate, but it's part of it.
And I'm looking at the stats here. It looks like you actually finished 15th, Healy. What happened? You got a lap down?
Well, I got trapped down with Justin, and then we had that restart. I can't remember if it was early or late, where someone at the front kind of double pumped, which was kind of controversial in the moment, and I think it was Dan Worthington in front of me, and I fucking smacked him and pushed my front end in, and I was just super tight for the rest of the night. So I was just staying out of everybody's way at that point.
And that's one thing I kind of want to touch base on is like in the truck race and the Xfinity race, most of the drivers kind of just let the championship 4 guys go. Now in the cup race, I don't mean like let them like Adam. Yeah. I did see Adam Lancaster pull. He did pull over for Brandon.
Which before we go too far, this is a topic of a segment later. We can talk a little bit, but we'll give each of our own opinions on it, but we can give them the overview here.
So basically what we had was, in the truck race, the drivers were being pretty lenient on the Final Four. They were letting them go, etc., stuff like that. They weren't really pushing the issue. Xfinity race was kind of the same way. The guys, like I saw Lancaster, he kind of just pulled over, moved over out of the way for him. And then in the cup race, it was a little bit of a different story. A couple of controversial things happened there. Like I said, we'll get into it later. But the biggest thing that I saw was when Justin Winters looped it on lap 1 and took out Radburn. Radburn was, heartbroken. You could hear it in his voice. He had a dominating season. He had a chance to go up there and run with Brandon. And let's just talk about this for a second. Brandon's car was fucked up. Like that dude, whenever that wreck happened on lap 1, he got pinned up against the wall and had a whole shitload of right side damage, whole bunch of right side damage. I don't know how, if his car was 100% and wasn't damaged, I think he would have drove off on everybody, like more than what he did. Like he won that race with a car that had aero problems. Clear, I mean, it was clear as day. You could see it. The fender was like here, and it went in and out. Like you could see half the tire, like on the right side. And he had spoiler damage, right rear, which maybe flattening that right rear out, I don't know, maybe it helped him.
We've seen it in real life on pit road. They got the Jackmans out there putting a big knee in the quarter panel to give him some more side force. So maybe one of those instances where it didn't hurt him.
And we watched him, I watched him rather. He made a really, really good move on James Silvers. James had a really good race. I will be honest with you. I didn't know if anybody was ever going to get around James, but Brandon was playing games, boys. Let me tell you, Brandon was laying back. He was laying back and he was saving his shit. And he let James go out and run around and do the, fastest laps he could turn, and caught him like towards the end of the run instantly. Like, I mean, he was like back like 6th or 7th. And next thing I know, he's in 2nd place. And I'm like, where did he come from? Right. So after the stage, he let James take the stage. And after the stage, it was like, I mean, he's kind of kept pace with James. He didn't burn his shit up, but he kept pace with him and kept him within like, half a second or second, something like that. And finally he just chased him down, man. And he made a move. And I was in the chat with him at the time. And I was like, he's sitting on the bottom line. You're going to have to, do something. You're going to have to make a move here because he's got the bottom line plugged up. If you go to the bottom, he's going to block. And he was really good at it. He was very, very, very good. He was blocking, but not egregiously blocking. Does that make sense? Like he was just using the line and taking the line away.
Just
fair racing, 100% fair racing, doing a great job. And Brandon took a move to the outside, went back to the inside, and then back to the outside. James, after he did it for 2 or 3 laps, and he did it down in 1 and 2. And finally, off of 2, he gets a hell of a run, and he gets right beside James, and they drag race down the backstretch. Brandon beats him into turn 1, takes the lead, and it was all she wrote from there.
And, I mean, go ahead.
I watched majority of that race from like position 6th or 7th or something like that, the whole race. And when that early wreck happened, I intentionally did not qualify because I didn't feel comfortable at the track and want to cause an issue. Well, we all know my issue that happened in the race that caused a caution and a restart. But But yeah, when Brandon started that lap 1 issue and he had to start at the rear of the field and trying to work on damage and stuff, he caught up to me in the first right after the restart. He caught me about like the 10 laps in the run or something like that, and he started about 10 positions behind me. So he definitely
hauling mail.
Yeah, he definitely. And one thing too is those Xfinity cars at Phoenix. I know they struggled in traffic. Like if he got right behind somebody on corner exit, and it was ridiculously tight, and he was able to do it. And nothing too. I was watching is toward the middle of the run and stuff, and I was behind him. He was cutting down below the yellow line off exit 2, and really letting off early going into turn 3, which was really helping his entry speeds. And to the point earlier where he had that damage and that spoiler, if it was on that right side, it would add rear downforce to his car, which would allow his rear tires to have more grip on exit. So that's how it would help him. But yeah, Brandon definitely was the class of the field on Tuesday. It'd be really interesting to see if Radburn didn't get, involved in that lap 1 issue, what that battle would have took place if Silvers and Radburn had been up there, if they would have battled Brandon differently, Fritz was also in the conversation too there for a while before he started falling back. So, the Xfinity race was a good race, but I'm happy to see Brandon get the championship.
I'm happy to see it too, because I can tell you guys, he ain't coming back to Xfinity. He's on Your Name Here Motorsports in the Cup Series for next season, player. We got the paint jobs ready. I can't wait to race with him. I never talked to the guy before a couple weeks ago. Hell of a nice guy.
He's an awesome guy.
I can't wait to race with him next season with the big boys.
Him, John Kinder, Matt Grenier, Casey Barlow,
Grenier. Don't say it wrong.
Yep.
Oh my God. He'll drive all the way from New Hampshire down there, and he'll put you under the armor, buddy.
Well, those 4, and there was another
awesome
guy
dudes.
Too. Yeah, they're all awesome. Them 4 right there, and a little bit of Jason too.
A little bit of Jason.
Jason was more. You, Jason, are more of the tough love coach. The other ones were more. They worked with you, and then I credit those 4 for where I am today. So seeing them doing good. 2 of the 4 won. Well, I guess 3 of the 5 won championships in this league. So he's going to be. Your team is going to be very stacked going into next year for sure.
Oh yeah.
So it's myself, Dave, obviously, Matt, obviously, Brandon. And we got a newcomer that I work with at Holly as well, Riley Wyans, who is somewhat of a road course specialist. So I think that'll be really interesting in those cars.
Yeah,
so,
that'll be fun to see for sure.
I believe if I was talking to my team, right, I believe I will be solo next year. So
it's not
we'll drop in the bucket there. So we'll see how Xfinity goes.
So are they not coming back? Is that is that the issue, or what are they doing here?
Bryce got kicked the fuck out.
Really?
No. I don't really know what's exactly going on. Who
is your team? I forget.
Simbox. It was Simbox.
So who's that entail?
The only person I know that might be coming back is Darius. But
so Nate not coming back.
I think it's still up in the air on what their plans are.
And what about Justin?
Same thing. I think he's more leaning on coming back. But
come on back, boys. We need you.
But everything, all the plans, we still got a while before the decision has to be made. So I think they're taking the off season for a little bit.
Justin already paid for his charter and trucks, so I assumed that he was coming back.
He might be. Be honest with you, I haven't really talked to any of them since.
That's because you got kicked the fuck out.
With my performance, performance this year.
Doug Neal is also Simbox, right?
Yes,
correct. He's
Doug has already paid as well.
Oh well,
About positive.
Bryce,
I might be wrong. Yeah, Doug's already paid. Doug's taking the 72.
I can earn a couple brownie points here both ways. I brought a friend of mine from a Facebook group. He's going to run an Xfinity, and he's looking for a team. His name's Blake Hensley. So maybe you need to holler at my boy because he is a good dude and he's fucking fast too.
And
maybe we'll see
maybe,
when
maybe we can talk about it. Maybe
that's what I really want
to spot for you guys in Xfinity.
I really want to put an emphasis on teams for this season. We want to increase the team owner and making it like so that there's actually somebody in charge and they are responsible for filling the seat every single race. We really want to put an emphasis on that. We want guys that are able to run the teams and fund the teams and all that stuff. You know, whether they get the funding from the drivers or somebody else, whatever it may be, you know, we want to put an emphasis on that so that we can put more prizes, more money towards a team championship and have drivers more inclined to stay for the entire season.
Yep.
And that takes
specifically. Oh, go ahead.
That takes everyone coming together and working on this and finding drivers. Like you need to be actively recruiting drivers for a team. Like if you don't have a team, go out and build yourself a team, Bryce. So, and, you know, become a team owner, or if you don't want to be the owner, at least find somebody that can, you know, essentially fund the team. Because that's what we want to put emphasis on. We want to have it so that moving forward in the future for Bluegrass, we want it to be more like NASCAR in the sense that there's a set amount of charters. Each team has those 4 charters, and they are responsible for filling those seats with drivers that fit in the criteria. And I'm looking at also doing something to where if you have a driver so let's say you have a driver in the Cup Series and you need to fill in for the Truck Series. I'm working on something to where the guys that are in the higher series can come down and substitute in for those teams so that we keep a field full. But they would still fall under the same rules where if they win a race, their money goes towards the championship pot, you know, right. So that it's not taking anything away from those guys. All it's doing is helping the teams keep their team roster full, keep the car count fuller. And that's just like if the Cup Series needs drivers from the Truck Series, so you get the Cup Series, you know, let's say we need some drivers. So a team owner can say, hey, I know this, I've got this guy on my reserve list. He's part of my team, but he's a truck driver. He can come up and run tonight. So we have a full field. That's what I'm trying to build is something to where we can keep the fields full. Even if we can just get to where we keep a consistent 30 cars, I would love to have it full every single week, 40 cars, you know. But if we can get to where we're pulling 30 cars every single week all the way till the end of the playoffs, that would be terrific. And you know, that's another thing. Like I don't get why people commit to the league and then they quit, because if you're not able to, if you can't afford to run it, then you probably shouldn't run it. Let's just be honest. Like if it's hard for you to come up with the money to run the league, then it's probably not the league for you. And I'm not trying to be rude or be a dick or anything like that. I'm just speaking the truth.
And naturally for you, you don't have to try, man.
I'm just speaking the facts that you shouldn't even try to run if you can't afford it. If you're running for money to win and try to make a living off of it, that's not gonna work, man. I'm sorry. It might work if you're special and you know win every single race, I guess. But these leagues are tough. These are not easy series to run in. There's a lot of talented drivers in each one of these series. So I'm looking for guys that are going to stay committed for the entire year and are looking to A, provide competition the whole season, B, try to learn how to get better and faster, because that's what this league does. It makes people better. There's so many people with testimonials that say this league has made me better and made me faster.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm one of those people. Like I said earlier in another podcast. I mean, you ask some of the older statesmen in this series, compared to where I was in season 2 of the Cup Series to now season 2 of the Xfinity Series. 4 seasons later, it's night and day. So, but yeah, it's been this league has helped me a lot. It's helped me in other leagues and prepared me for a lot of other things. So, but yeah.
Yep. And with that, we need to get on to the Cup Series and cut. All right. So, Cup Series. Obviously, these are the biggest, baddest hitters we've got. We had a small field, unfortunately, which made things kind of strange. I think we had 12 signed up, and then 11 actually started the race.
Yeah.
First off the rip, Jason wasn't feeling well that night. I was working on my buddy's race car, and Dave hit me up right before the race. I was going to come spot for him eventually, but I was working on stuff. Said we need race control, so I run down here. And luckily, the Cup guys these are obviously the best that we have to offer. They got the race started without a hitch. I think they're on, I don't know, like lap 10 or 15 by the time I even sat down, and there had been no issues. So just off the rip, kudos to those guys for being professional enough to be able to get that thing off without with no issues. It was a long one, to say the least, with a small field like that. Once they kind of get single filed out, there was me and Dave and Matt were kind of informing me of things that were happening on the track that wasn't necessarily in my line of vision, because it was so stretched out that it was just basically it was evenly spaced all the way around the track, which made for a very clean race for the most part. Eventually, just the next gen cars being the way that they are, when tire wear started factoring in on full tanks of fuel, and these guys are going really big windows, and they're cutting that dog leg, it unsettles those cars so much. Like they were just looping them, whether it was off of 4 or when they would transition back onto the racing surface after cutting at the start finish line there. So the majority of what we had were self spins, and it's not a run out of talent situation. It's just it's a tough car to drive, which is the whole point of the next gen car. But overall, clean race by the guys. Early on, I know Mikey was up there. Well, really, the whole championship 4. I will say Huffy was struggling early, and he made a really good pit call at some point that moved him up to the front of the field, and not dissing Huffy by any stretch. It didn't seem like a track that was one of his favorites by any stretch. And at that point, Cedric and Gabe started kind of taking over, and I could see how the race was going to go.
Yeah.
And I was curious, with them being teammates, how they were going to drive each other, and they did an awesome job. I mean, they raced each other hard. They were side by side a lot, and never stepped over that line, which is kind of what you would expect from teammates running for a championship between each other. And ultimately, Cedric emerged at the top there.
Yep.
Not the biggest surprise by any stretch. Cedric's had an awesome season.
Very good run.
Not to take anything away, Gabe's had an awesome season. Huffy obviously came on really strong there towards the end of the season. And also Mikey caught fire there at the end. He probably would have been my pick. He cut not so much, not as much as Huffy, I guess, but he didn't seem as comfortable or dominant at Phoenix where he had been at other places, and he ended up getting into an incident with Jonathan Cogswell. I think it was kind of midway through the race, which turned into some controversy that we'll touch on in another one of our segments. There's something to be said, obviously, but unfortunate and playoff guy with a non-playoff guy, and we'll all have our takes on that. But ultimately, just the Cup Series is always clean. I've run race control for them. I don't know, 5 or 6 times now, and honestly, those dudes make it so easy on me. They don't bullshit over the radio. They just get in there
Very
and do their
professional.
job.
Yes.
Yep, and like I'll be in. I'm in Dave and Matt's channel because I originally I spot them when I'm not doing race control, but when you're not there and I do race control, then I'm just kind of hanging out. And luckily, this was fortunate just the way it was spaced out. They would tell me if a guy was spinning on one side of the track because I'm watching the leaders or whatever. So it helped me out. But overall, I just can't say enough about the level of these guys and the professionalism, just top to bottom, whether it's Cedric or Brian or Tony, Doug Newbigging, whoever. I know Doug in particular. He was running up there at the front for a while, and gosh, he just started having self spin issues, and he was trying to stay out on track to stay on the lead lap, and tires are getting hot, and kind of compounded his issues running around on crappy tires and led him to where he ended up. But again, kudos not just to Cedric, but that entire field, Lucky Ducks Motorsports, all those guys. They just did a freaking tremendous job. I can't say enough about them.
Well, Lucky Ducks took home the championship also for the team championship. So congrats to John Pill, the owner of Lucky Ducks. Those guys deserved it. They ran a hell of a season all season.
Dominated this season.
Yeah, they did a really good job. Well, they were the only ones that really kept the full team all season. They kept a full 4 drivers.
Well, it helps that they had one driver win like 85% of his races. He joined in before he quit.
Yeah, that's true.
But
he won several races.
Every race I was in, I looked down the field, and at times it felt like half of them were Lucky Ducks cars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Aaron Smith had 5 wins on the season before he jumped out, so he was definitely the favorite at some point to be the champion. And we had a little, like I said, we had some controversy, and touch base on something else that we kind of left out on the sheet was the David Farmer and Alex Huffman incident. So
yeah. And
I reviewed it.
The reason I did is because Huffy and Dave talked after the fact, and Huffy realized it wasn't as bad as he thought it was.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't nearly as bad as what he was claiming it was on the radio. Because I heard it. I heard what he said. I watched the replay. There was no contact, actually. If you go back and look at it, no contact whatsoever. He got under his diffuser, and he got him loose. Huffy, I believe what happened is Huffy panicked and got on the gas too hard coming off of 2 and looped it himself. And the way that he hit the wall, he barely touched the wall, man. I'm sorry. I think he just quit. I think he gave up in the race. He went and parked the car. He went and parked the car and said something about it blowing up or some shit. I don't know. I'm sorry, but I think he just quit, man. I'm sorry, Huffy, but I watched it, man, and I saw the damage. The car wasn't hurt that bad. There was no sound of the motor letting go in the replay. It looked to me like he just pulled over and parked and quit.
Yeah, I thought the same from where I was sitting. So this put me in a pretty unique circumstance on several levels. So we'll start out here with the motor blowing up. I know that he was upset. He thought that he got done very wrong by a non-playoff driver. And then I started hearing my radio or my engine's blowing up and it's overheating, this and that. I looked at when he hit the wall, and I was like,
it was light contact, man. It was very.
It didn't do shit.
It didn't do shit. It didn't.
And this is up to Huffy to tell anyone he wants to tell, but when I had the fortune of meeting him in person yesterday. We were both at the All American 400 at Nashville Fairgrounds, and
Right.
talked about it a little bit. And he claimed that it took out an oil cooler hose. So do with that information what you would like.
I didn't know iRacing went into that detail.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's what he claims.
So the oil cooler is on the right hand side of the car, but the contact when he came in and hit the wall, so he backed it into the wall. Like it barely slapped the right side, rear right, and it barely slapped the right front. I mean, just I can show anybody the replay wants to see it.
Yeah,
I just think that he felt defeated.
Yep.
He got back out on the track, and he kind of Brian Terry passed him, and maybe I don't know what happened, why the car was slower when he got back on the track. Maybe it did do something that we don't know about, some kind of damage, slowed it down. I don't know, because the contact was minimal. I mean,
yeah. So here's my other half of this tale. So looking at it, obviously I was in Dave and Matt's channel, and when it happened, even before the wreck had completed, I'm like, Dave, I'm going to have to give you an EOL for this. And the reason I said it is because we had the prior controversy with him and Fritz. And I inform these guys every race, and this is maybe something I shouldn't do, but I lean more towards a racing incident than putting blame on a guy as much as possible. And I
mean, that's the majority of it.
When I did that the previous time with Dave and Fritz, apparently some people felt some kind of way about that. So I didn't want that to be a stain on the championship. So I was like, Dave, I'm giving you an EOL, but I'm going to go look at it now. And you can ask Dave and Matt, if it had not been one of those two involved in that incident, I would have probably called it a racing incident personally. Just so I know everybody's monitors show different things.
stuff. Yeah.
From what I saw, when it looked like either Dave just got under his splitter a little bit, or got his splitter under him a little bit, or he might have actually touched them somewhere
with net code. It had to, if he touched him, it had to be net code, and it didn't show. But here's the thing: the spin, when Dave actually made contact with Alex,
it's a separate deal.
When he made contact with Alex, there was about a second or so in between.
Yes, that's what I was getting at.
That's what shows me that when Dave made contact, it didn't get Alex loose right away.
Yeah.
Or he didn't make contact. I'm sorry. When Dave got up under Alex, I think it upset the balance of the car. It upset the air underneath the car. It took the air off the diffuser, and there wasn't much else he could do. And maybe he panicked. Maybe he looked up and saw Dave, and he just gassed it up a little bit too much, because it was like Dave gets up under him, Alex keeps rolling, spins out.
Yeah.
So
from where I'm sitting, at that point we still got 200 laps to go.
Long ass race to go still. Yeah.
So from where I'm sitting with Dave, just with the prior history and some people being upset about how I've called things when Dave's been involved before, I was like, regardless, you're getting an EOL. And I told him, I was like, look, you got 200 laps. But
not going to hurt you in 11 car field.
Yeah, you've been fast up to this point. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But if it were just two guys that I did not know, it looked like Dave got underneath him, got him a little loose, whether it was aero, whether it was contact, whatever you want to call it.
I just didn't see contact.
But regardless of whether there was or not, then Dave checked up, and then you could see probably a 2-foot gap between the cars, and then Huffy's car goes around. So that is my side of the story.
That's exactly what I saw, Alex. And again, so I know I've already said thank you, but I got to say it again for everyone else. I do appreciate you taking the reins for me that night. I had told you the night before I wasn't feeling well. Ended up having strep throat is what it was. Yeah. But I told you that on Tuesday, I actually messaged you and was like, hey, can you
You wanted
know,
me to do the Xfinity race.
yeah, and because I was already sick, and then so Wednesday rolls around, and I took some medicine, and I was comatose, man. I was out all day. When I woke up the next morning, I was like looking, my phone was blown up. I had all these messages and stuff, and people complaining, and getting one side of the story, but not necessarily the true story, and a little bit of back and forth. And you and I talked about it. I just want to say that I appreciate everything that you do for this league, and appreciate everything that you provide and all the help that you bring. So
yeah, and I understand the optics of it, where if you are there, I'm spotting for Dave and Matt this past season, and I understand the optics of, like, if Dave is in an incident, people would be inclined to think that I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt,
favoritism, right?
And typically, when I see him racing someone close, I'll tell him laps ahead of time. Is like, look, if you get into it with this guy because of what I'm doing right now, I have to be harder on you.
That's
honestly.
exactly okay. That right there, so now you understand my world. Now you understand what I deal with on a weekly basis. You've got a little taste of it, and you see, you've heard the bitching and complaining after the race, and it's stressful, man. It eats at you, because you're sitting here like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not giving any favoritism. I'm not doing any preferential treatment. I'm not trying to get anyone ahead or anything like that. But it doesn't matter. You have to be harder on the guys that are perceived as your friends. Okay.
Exactly.
You have to hold them to a higher standard than you would anybody else, because if not, here comes the backlash. Here comes the insinuating stuff, and it's unfair to race control. It's unfair to all of us that do race control.
And which for my specific situation, I understand why people would jump to that conclusion. I know that Dave is an aggressive driver. I know that there are guys that don't like how he drives, and that's part of racing. There are Ross Chastains and Kyle Bushes out there, whatever. That's a part of it. But from where I'm sitting, and I tell these guys before the race, I err on the side of racing incidents. And after, there was one several weeks ago where, like, a suspicion came up. So I've made a habit now where once I come to my decision, I will go down to their channel and explain my reasoning to them. I've done it basically every incident that I've had to make a call on, like in the last 3 races, and every guy's seemed to be pretty cool about it. But then the next day, you're getting messages that are, I think what happens is, like,
they say one thing to you, and then they turn around and say one thing to me.
Well, they can, it's not that they're saying a different thing, but they can, from their perspective, they might have felt more wronged at the time and didn't want to go back and forth with me during a race or something.
Probably.
And I mean, I get it from a racer standpoint, but a lot of the stuff, like in real life, sometimes you show up at the racetrack and something bad happens, and it's not your fault, and you got to put your wrecked piece of shit on the trailer and come back next week and get after it. That's just how racing is. And
I agree.
I know I've said it on here before, and I've said it to you 1,000 times. One of the biggest things for me when I first came into this league, if I felt like something bad happened to me, I had to make sure that you knew about it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted you to do something about it. And then I had an epiphany at some point. I was like,
me and you talked. You talked, and I was explaining that it does, to give that person a penalty does not change what happened to you.
Yeah, my race is still shit. And even if that guy gets a penalty, it doesn't fix me at all.
Might make you feel better in the moment, I guess, but
I mean,
if it's a racing incident, then it's a racing incident. There's no reason to penalize the person.
Yeah.
So,
and one of the big differences, not that I'm like this big professional racer, because I'm not by any means, but I've done a lot of racing in my life, and there are just times when you have bad days at the track, and you just got to chalk it up to that is how this sport works.
You're not going to win every race.
Yeah, I mean, it is 100% skill, but
Yep.
it can 100% be bad luck that ruins your day.
And you're exactly right, 100%, because and I've had this talk with Travis Twitty and multiple other guys. They get mad, they get upset because something happens to them in the race, and I'm like, listen, man, you got 24 hours to be mad. 24 hours is what you got.
I've done this with you too many times when you're mad at someone else.
After 24 hours, you can no longer be mad about it. You have got to move on and focus on the next race, the next week, and show up and do what you got to do. You know, guys that go out here and they run a race and they get wrecked and they don't show back up for the next race because they feel like they got done wrong or they got wrecked out of the, you know, whatever it may be. That's going to happen. It's racing. We see it in real life every single weekend. Every single weekend we see it. So it's going to happen. So, and that's what people have to take into consideration and understand. If you stick with it and you don't quit and you actually run the entire season, you will get better. You will learn things. This is a very competitive league, and
I got better because of this.
People get better. It's a fact. It's proven. So for those that listen to this that are thinking about joining or have ran in the past and want to think about signing up again but quit, just keep in mind, when you do that, when you quit, you're taking a spot away from somebody who could potentially run the entire season. So, and again, this goes back to, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but it's almost
you
like
don't have to try, buddy.
It's better for them not to sign up at times and take that spot from somebody who would actually run the entire season. I would rather, I'm going to say this, I would rather them not even sign up if that's how they're going to be, is if they're just going to run a few races and get mad and quit, because that just takes away a spot from somebody who could potentially run the entire season. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to be a dick or anything like that, but we've spent a long time on Bluegrass this week.
One last thing, and then we'll get into our opinions. For the Cup guys that are listening, hopefully you guys saw I made a post in your channel. If you guys have any issues or questions about how the races have been run when Jason's not there, I'm not sitting here waiting to attack you. I would love to discuss it. I'll give you my side, I'll hear your side, and then that'll make me better when I'm race controlling in the future. I'm not mad at anybody. I've told everybody a million times, I just want everybody to have as much fun as I do, because I love this shit. So with that said, let's get into the fun shit now.
So let me kind of piggyback on to what you just said actually for a second. That's another point I want to make. If you have an issue and you feel like you've been wronged, or you want to, feel like the league has done you a certain way, or I've done you a certain way, or Alex has done you a certain way, come talk to us. Don't go into the Discord and post a message about how mad you are for everyone and their brother to see, because that makes it seem like an attack on the league. That makes it seem like you're so upset that you're going to publicly accuse the league of something. Okay. And most of these guys I've known for 2.5 years now, and they know everything is above board 100%. I do everything that I say I'm going to do. I paid Joey Doucette the $160 that I told him I was going to pay him at the end of the season last week. Paid him before the season even ended, because I told him I would pay it to him at the end of the season. Because to be honest with you, I was hoping he might come back and run some damn races. Same with Blanchard. When the whole Blanchard deal happened, that was me. The reason I didn't answer him in the first 24 hours was I was trying to give him time to calm down so that he would see that he's potentially making a mistake. And now both of those guys want to come back and race here. So what does that tell you about the league? I mean, if you have an issue, what I'm saying is, if you have an issue, come talk to me first before you make a post, and let's see if we can't resolve it in a peaceful, grown-up conversation manner. It works out better for everybody in the end when we do like that. Because I am a reasonable person when I'm calm. I will say, when I'm not when I'm calm,
when calm.
Exactly. When I'm calm, I'm a very reasonable person. Now, when I'm upset and I'm mad,
I'm not reasonable.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of fucking black out. It happens.
And that goes along with the podcast too, because there was an incident that someone didn't care for how we were talking about him on the podcast. And if you guys have a problem with how we talk about you on the podcast, for one, don't make stupid decisions, and two, come talk to us.
That's how I feel. Here's another thing. As far as like me on the podcast, like I'm playing a character. I'm trying to be entertaining.
Yeah,
we're trying to provide entertainment.
I'm the fucking drunk guy. I'm gonna say crazy shit. If you don't like it, then
just come talk to us.
He's the Freddie Kraft of the show.
It's not a dick. Don't take it so hard.
All right,
on to the fun stuff. Red Green and Are You Serious?
After that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next segment. Bryce, tell the people what we got coming up.
Oh man, we have the NASCAR segment here coming up. And boy, is this going to get very interesting.
Boy, golly, did we have a fucking barn burner this weekend?
We have at Martinsville, baby.
All
right. Now moving on to what everyone is wanting us, or not wanting us to talk about, but what a lot of us want to talk about, the entertaining weekend we had in NASCAR. We had Xfinity race on Saturday. Very entertaining race.
Damn good
race. And everyone is talking about what happened on the final lap of the race. Set the scene here. Ty Gibbs running second place behind his teammate Brandon Jones, who's in first. Ty Gibbs already locked into the final four. His teammate Brandon Jones is not and needs to win to get locked in. 1 lap to go. Ty Gibbs wrecks his own teammate and knocks him out of playoff contention.
And was booed for it. Very, very,
very loud.
Very loud boos. Some of the loudest boos I've heard in a long time, since Kyle Busch, probably.
It's the loudest boos I've heard since Denny Hamlin wrecked Chase Elliott.
Yeah. They were not happy with what Ty pulled. Like, obviously, Brandon moved him. So they were trading out, right? They were moving each other for a few laps. Like Brandon would move Ty, then Ty would move Brandon. Then, we had those cautions and the green, white checkers kept coming out. And then finally they got to the white flag, which means the next flag ends the race. All right. Ty knows this. The next flag ends the race. So Brandon moves him down in 1 and 2, right?
Clears him.
Right. He moves him, but he clears him. He barely, he didn't wreck him. He moved him. There's a difference.
This is taking the green.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he moves him in 1 and 2, gets around him. Okay, they hit the white, and I think they're still kind of like racing at that point. Well, I think Ty moves Brandon after the white in 1 and 2. Brandon makes a move on him, and moves Ty out of the way. They're coming into 3 and 4, and Ty hits him so hard it buckles his hood. Buckled.
They're going into turn 1 when he did that.
It was turn 1.
Turn 1 on the final lap. They took the white.
Yeah.
Brandon goes in the lead.
I thought it was in turn 3.
It was turn 1. They took the white. Brandon was in front. Ty Gibbs was behind him in second. Take the white flag. They're single file. Brandon was running like kind of the middle lane, high lane, while Ty Gibbs just gave his hardest hit I've seen. And it, like you said, it hit him so hard it buckled Gibbs' front end and sent Brandon Jones around and back into the wall in turn 1 and 2.
The wall, yeah.
And Ty Gibbs pulled out of the next scoring loop, turn 2 with the lead, and ended up winning the race and did probably one of the most disrespectful burnouts I think I've ever seen behind Denny Hamlin's last year.
It was ridiculous. That burnout was just ridiculous. Let's talk about the 3 wide racing though. Leading up to that, it was amazing. Like they were 3 wide twice, and poor Gregson got caught on the outside both times. So here they are. They take the white flag, and you're right. He punted him off into 1. I thought it was in 3 and 4 for some reason, but yeah, he punts him off into 1, ends the race. Cause like I said, Ty knew the next flag ends the race regardless. And so that was an instant win for him. It was just poor taste, poor sportsmanship. And then after the fact, he kept, in the post-race interviews, they were like, how is this going to affect your relationship? Do you have a good enough relationship with him that you can call him and talk to him about this and potentially explain what happened? And he's like, well, we got moved and we got the win. Dude, that's not what he said. And the reporter even goes, well, he was like, after they took the mic away from him, he goes, no, what I'm saying is, and you could faintly hear him, but he was like, what I'm saying is, do you have a relationship? He's like, I don't care about you getting moved or you winning. He's like, do you have a good enough relationship with him that you can talk to him about this and everything will be okay? And he's like, well, I think we did. And something like kind of just brushed it off again. He's like, I don't really know. He's like, all I know is we got moved and we got the win. He just kept saying that over and over. And then finally another reporter said, Brandon Jones, this is right after that guy had said what he said about, do you have a good enough relationship with him? And he goes, the other reporter says, well, Brandon Jones just said he lost all respect for you after that. And Ty goes, well, I guess there's your answer, or something smart ass like that. Like,
yeah,
that's his opinion. He goes, well, he said, well, that's his opinion. We got moved and then I tried to move him. I was definitely trying to move him. He said, I was definitely trying to move him, but I wasn't trying to wreck him. He's like, but here's the thing. You drove in so fucking hard. You buckled your hood.
Mm-hmm. And the fact that afterwards he kept comparing himself to Jesus.
So
what?
Yeah,
you didn't hear about that?
No.
He said in an interview. It's quoted on Twitter somewhere.
Yeah, let me fucking find it, because this.
I was wondering why they had all the Jesus memes on Twitter today.
Yeah,
that is.
He said on the lines of
he quoted like he didn't do a Bible verse, but he's basically, in a nutshell, what he said was, Jesus Christ was hated by most people when he was alive. It's my duty to block out the haters, basically.
Oh my God, really?
Basically. Yeah. So, dude, hold on. I got to find this fucking response, because it's the funniest.
I'm looking for it as well.
Fucking thing I've ever seen.
I see videos. I don't want to play the whole video. I just want to hear what he said. I'm having a hard time finding just the clip of what he said. Like, obviously,
I think it was during his.
On the
stand.
Yeah, like on the podium kind of deal.
Was it during the post race with the reporters?
Mm-mm. It was during his podium appearance that winners do. They go not during the broadcast.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and play this video and see if I can find it, because I got to listen to it now, and I'll play it so everyone can hear it.
And that's why there was a guy today
dressed up as Jesus,
dressed up Jesus with a sign said "Looking for Ty Gibbs."
Yeah, I get that now.
He's delivered. The 20-year-old.
I'm trying to find it.
So what Ty Gibbs said was, Jesus was hated first and among all the people. That's a part of it, silencing out the crowd. So, and a guy responded to him and said, well, Ty, I think Jesus turned water into wine, not his teammate into the wall.
Oh, yeah. That's pretty clever. That's really clever.
That's pretty good. I give him that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I can't see, this guy just talks about it. He doesn't actually have the clip. Yeah. I want to see the clip.
Yeah.
But that's the big thing. And
I hope Brandon Jones cleans him out next week, and I hope he's the 5th JRM car.
The other best quote from it was when they interviewed Noah Gragson after the race, and in more or less he said, "Man, I really don't know what, when you're racing with those Ty Gibbs Racing, Joe Gibbs Racing cars."
Dude, then he walked by Brandon
and said, "You should beat his ass."
Yep.
Yes. Yep. And then I
I
mean,
hope that he's a 5th JRM card next week. I hope he cleans out Ty Gibbs.
Dude, I hope he sends him. I
Well,
mean,
he's
I hope he
already-
sends him on the first fucking lap.
we know
'Cause
he's going to JRM. Yeah, we already know he's going
Yeah.
to JRM next year. So I hope he does too. I hope he just cleans him out.
Noah's got to love it. He's got another teammate because if Brandon Jones is behind those two guys, who's he going to clean out? Ty Gibbs or Noah Gragson? That's racing for a championship. Ty Gibbs is eating shit.
Basically, it's a
100%.
Toyota driver racing it as a Chevy.
Yeah,
team right now,
it's
so
Halloween,
what it
man.
is.
He's dressed up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I know that we spent a little more time than what we probably wanted to on this, but let's talk about the
Cup race.
Snyder and Hill incident, though.
Oh yeah,
That was probably one of the cleanest right hooks I've ever
Hill
seen.
knocked him on his fucking ass.
so
That was the cleanest right hook I've ever
I didn't
seen.
get to watch the race. Like I said, I was at the All American 400 where I got to hang out with Huffy for a little bit. I didn't see what preceded that happening. I've never seen Austin Hill be like a really emotional guy. I don't know what the incident was that made that happen, but
I'm watching it right now. So okay, I see what it was. He turned him. Let's see, where's the point them out? Oh, there they are. That's a big old boy going at. Oh, he laid him out, dude.
Oh yeah, he
Wow.
folded him like a church pew. He broke him down like my grandfather's shotgun.
That was I'm gonna keep saying it. That was the cleanest right hook I've ever seen a NASCAR driver throw.
100%.
He dropped Snyder so hard.
So Hill is on the bottom, and I guess Snyder came down on him and cut his nose off, from what I can see in this video. And then when they go to the punch scene here, you see Austin Hill, big old country looking boy.
Oh, he's
just clocks him.
He is corn fed.
And that's on the NASCAR YouTube channel. If anybody wants to watch that, you can see that on the NASCAR YouTube channel. So
yeah, I see it.
All right, that's moving us on to the Cup Series now, and let's talk about that freaking move Chastain did to get into the Final Four. Who saw that shit coming? Did anybody? No, I didn't.
No, I just looked on Twitter, just kind of scrolling through my timeline. It's hitting NFL news. It's hitting MLB. You know, MLB players are tweeting about it. Pat McAfee just tweeted about it. It's probably going to be on ESPN. I wouldn't be surprised if it's on the top 10 ESPN this week. I did not see it coming. I've always wondered if I could try it in iRacing, but
there's a slew of guys trying.
They've already done it.
Racing, and it
does not work. It jumps the car. Yeah.
Next season.
It does work. Jonathan Schwartz posted a video. I've seen 2 videos of it working so far.
I've seen guys like they'd go.
They must not know what they're doing
through the catch fence or something.
Yeah, those guys don't know what they're doing because I've seen 2 guys that one of them is a league driver of ours. He didn't race this season.
The wheels off the wall.
He didn't race with us this season, but he raced last season and was a Final Four driver, which is John Schwartz. Welcome back to the Bluegrass iRacing Cup Series, John. We're glad you're going to come back with us. Very talented driver, guys. So look out for that number 94, I believe, or 95, something like that. What is his number?
90 something.
95, the 94. John Schwartz in the 95. Look out for that 95 car next season. Bad mother effer right there. Let me tell you. He's a hell, and he posted a video of doing it himself. If you go into our Discord channel and you go to the share links here channel, which is under general discussion, John actually recreates the move. It's pretty cool.
So, from where I was sitting personally, so I've gotten back into sports gambling, my friends. So. About 4 weeks ago, I got pretty good odds on championship drivers. So I placed 5 $10 bets. I took Ross Chastain, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano. So I put a $10 bet on each of them. Each of them, if they win the championship, is going to pay 8 times. So I'm watching this happen, and I'm thinking about, like, is this going to screw me out of making money? Because leading up to it, I really felt like this was like Denny was finally going to get it done this season. I felt like he was due, and all the rate, like those last 15 laps, the racing was so hard, so tight. Guys were moving everybody. I mean, every
it was really
turn,
tough
somebody
race.
was getting moved. It was fucking awesome. That is what Martinsville is all about, as far as I'm concerned.
They made amazing strides between the spring race here.
Yes. Oh, yes.
The
big time
playoff race.
This race was exciting to watch.
There's still some things that, I would tweak. It shouldn't take 60, 70 laps for these tires to start falling off like they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I applaud Goodyear for bringing in a tire that actually had fall off.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it too is still the car. We'll go ahead and say it now. Alex and I have been talking about. We sat in on a conversation between one of our two of our drivers.
Another
in the
Alex.
Cup series, another Alex, and we have decided that we would want to, during the off season, between the next season of Bluegrass, and to have a little sit down powwow debate deal on how they can fix next gen car.
Just the state of NASCAR.
Yeah, and
gotcha.
It got pretty heated during that conversation. So
right,
and looking forward to see what they have to say about that. But I did, like I said, I applaud NASCAR for bringing in a tire that actually did some shit. You saw these cars; they weren't stable like they were in the spring.
No,
they were slipping and sliding all around.
Good race,
but yeah, definitely they still have a little bit of work to do with the package. But the tire, I'm happy with it.
I was real shocked towards the end there after that last caution. I know he had to do it, and I didn't think it would work. It ultimately did not, but for a while it looked like it would. That Chase Briscoe was going to stay out and win.
I thought he was race. Too. It looked like it.
It looked like he was just going to cruise because no one could get up there.
And then Keselowski caught him eventually.
Yeah.
And then it just turned. Everything just went like it was. I didn't know what the hell was going to happen at the end of that race. It was wild. And at one point, Chastain's out, and you're like, "Oh shit!" And all of a sudden, he sends it on the fucking wall all the way around and sets the goddamn fastest lap ever in a Cup car, and he's only a 10th off the fastest lap for a freaking modified.
Ever.
Dude, that was insane. He said, I just threw her in 5th gear on the backstretch and let her eat. I mean, and he did, by God. He's like,
really, you hear him.
You hear him upshift.
I'll put it in the Discord. The in-car view is the craziest shit I've seen. He clicks it into 5th and just kind of skates it around the outside. I mean,
he was flying, man. That was
at that point, I was so focused on Denny because he is one of the guys I have money on. And at that point, I was like, well, Ross he's not even a part of this because I have money on him as well. I was like, all right, he's out, but I'm good with Denny. I was more worried about Christopher Bell winning the race, which he had cleared at that point because I've got money on him too. But then I'm watching Denny, and Denny, he actually, if Brad Keselowski hadn't been right there and Brad kind of pinched him off coming out of 4, if Denny had not had a car there, he would have drove it up to the wall, and Ross probably would have just ran it right up his ass right there.
Well, Ross made a very
to turn each other.
Ross made a very smart move earlier, a few laps before that, if you remember. So him and Denny were battling, and he moved Denny, and you could tell Denny was pissed. He's freaking turned the car left.
He was good.
And all of a sudden you see Ross kind of check up, and he's like, somebody got in his ear and said, "Don't let him behind you. He will wreck you." And sure enough, he let Denny go and then pulled that unbelievable move at the end. I was on the phone with Brian Terry at the time, and we were both like, oh my God, like it was insane. It was fun as hell.
I don't, how much I applaud the move and how awesome it is to see. I don't want this to become a normal.
We're
final lap of Martinsville. You're memorizing the
talk
wall.
about this and red flag, green flag, because I have a take on what you're saying, Bryce.
Okay.
And I have a feeling we're going to be on the same side of this based on what you just said.
Yeah, I don't want it to become a norm either. But so one thing I did forget to mention earlier was, if you guys haven't already seen, we do start our next season on November 28th for the trucks, 29th for the Xfinity, and the November 30th for the Cup Series. So keep that in mind. If you're looking to sign up, go ahead and get that done. We will have recruiting races starting October 31st, Monday, for the trucks. And then on the 1st, it'll be Xfinity. And then Wednesday, we'll have Cup. All series drivers are invited to join these and come out. And the password will be blue. So it will be password protected. So it'll only be people within the Discord, or if I make a post, whoever sees that post, they'll be able to get in. So if you want to come out and, do some testing with the new drivers, and new drivers want to get kind of familiar with the older drivers, this is a perfect time to do it. We're going to start out with Daytona and the trucks tomorrow. And then again, on November 22nd, we're going to have the Turkey Dash for Cash #2. We're going to do trucks at Talladega, $15 buy-in, and see what we get. League members first, obviously. And then if we can't get a full field with league members, then we will move it on over to public signups. So if you guys want to get in on that, make sure you send it to the Cash App and put a note that it's for the Turkey Dash for Cash, or just put Turkey Race. That'd be fine. So we want to make sure we get that out there. I almost forgot about that earlier. And then one more thing I did forget to mention: the Pro Late Tour, our dirt series on Thursday nights. We've only got 2 races left. They're both national points touring races. That's a $500 bonus to the winner. Plus they'll get the $200 from Wotel if they've not already got it. And then they'll get $250 for whoever wins the Bluegrass Series championship will get $250. So potentially $1,000 on the line for somebody out there in the dirt world. Cheers to those guys for coming out and racing with us on Thursdays. And I know last Thursday was a little bit rough. But this week we'll get everything sorted out and we'll be back to normal.
So let's keep it moving. We'll get ready for
red flag, green flag. Yep. All right.
All right. So the first green flag, red flag I have for you gents tonight is green flag, red flag, playoff drivers versus non-playoff drivers. Jason?
I'm going to go with red flag on this because I feel like so I heard somebody say the other day that the playoff drivers are technically supposed to be the fastest guys on the track. That's not that's not necessarily true. That's not how it works. They're the most consistent, and they've managed to point their way in if they didn't win their way in. It's a matter of just staying consistent and being in the top 3, 5, whatever they got to do, and that's how they get in. It doesn't necessarily mean they're the fastest at that track at that moment. So maybe they're laying back and trying to save, conserve, stay out of trouble, whatever it may be. They're trying to lay back and not push the issue. So when a non-playoff driver is driving them so aggressively that they're putting the bumper to them or, wrecking them, whatever it may be, I'm red flag on that, man, because I feel like those guys have earned that spot and earned that chance. They should be allowed to actually race it out. You see what I'm saying? Like we had it, the Truck Series guys, they let those guys race it out. Xfinity guys, they let those guys race it out. And I feel like that same courtesy should be extended. And I'm not saying like pull over. I'm not asking you to pull over by any means and just give it to them. I'm just saying, like, early in the race, real early, there's no need to be driving with the way that I saw some of those Cup Series drivers driving in the replay. I just felt like it was super early, man. Like y'all got hundreds of laps left, and I'm seeing guys get turned, and not necessarily. I'm not referring to the incident we talked about earlier, but I saw other guys. They were bumping people, driving really aggressive, and just it doesn't make any sense. What maybe you're holding a grudge against them all season. Maybe you feel like you deserve to be in the Final Four and not them. I get that. I just feel like that you should save it for the next season. Come out and do your best, earn that chance and that opportunity to go race for a championship, because that's what these guys have done through sticking it out and earning points and doing whatever they had to do to get into the Final Four. That's what it's all about. Again, I'm not asking anyone to pull over or just let people have it, but maybe a little more respect early in the race, a little more leeway early in the race, because I can go and tell you, these guys are going to remember it next season. They're going to remember how they were raced. And it's unfortunate some of the stuff that happened the other night in the Cup Series race. We're going to get into that in a minute, but it was tough, unfortunate for the guys involved. And I know, one of them was extremely upset, and, whether he has the right to be upset or not is debatable. But yeah, I'm red flag, man.
Well, my friend, Jason, what color is that screen behind you?
Blue, purple?
No, it's green. It's green, my guy, and I'm green flag on this. And here's why I'm going to tell you. So this is my first season on the outside of the playoffs, or outside of the championship four. Yes. Going into those races, I have one thing to race for, and that wins only. I don't give a shit about the stage. I don't care about anybody else. Period. And I get, like, in the truck race, like my truck was hurt. It was slow, so I was getting out of the way. If my truck had been on pace, I paid the same $10 and the same charter those guys did. And if I win the race, maybe I get a $100 bill, and they're racing for the championship. But I don't care what happens to anybody that's not on my team. I'll give them respect, but I'm not going to race them any different, period. So if you're in a series with me next year, like, I'm going to race you clean. If that's
all I'm asking for is clean racing.
But I'm not moving. I'm not changing my line for you. I'm not making any concessions for you, because I'm not making concessions for other guys.
Right.
Period.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to say is, like, if you can race them hard and race them clean, then by all means, yeah.
But it's a fine line, because the guys that are in the Final Four, because I've also been on that side too. You have the expectation that some of these guys are gonna just let you roll through. And now that I've been on both sides of it, like that, when I look at a guy that doesn't have a yellow spoiler or a blue spoiler or whatever it is that season, that dude, he paid the same money as me, and his championship is just winning a race and then paying for his next 10 races or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah.
So, but there is a certain level of respect, like where I was, where my truck was hurt. Well, yeah, I'll get out of the way, but I would do that outside of playoffs. If my truck is, murdered, I'm going to get out of your way.
Yeah.
But
I'm not asking nobody to pull over or give them a spot. You know what I'm saying? I'm just asking for clean racing, you know, especially in a long race like that. I feel like when it's that early in the race, you know, pushing it may not be the best idea right away.
There is a time and a place, and that I think is more some drivers will get after it early.
Right. You're right.
And I, as a spotter, as a driver, I'm not going to tell a guy to change his strategy, and I've not had someone tell me to change how I race based on whether or not I'm in the playoffs. Because if I'm showing up, I'm here to do
same thing. Yeah,
really more so when I'm not in the playoffs, because it doesn't matter if I get a top 10 or if I have a solid finish. It's really checkers or wreckers, and not saying that I race like that necessarily, but like if you don't win, then you know, you're just hanging out with your pals, which is good and fine. But you know, if I'm on the lead lap, if I'm running in the top 5 as a non-playoff guy, I ain't getting out of the way for Justin. I'm not getting out of the way for Keith. I'm just not.
Yeah, I get that. I'm not saying get out of the way or move over or anything like that. I just meant that, you know, I'm red flagged for the way that things kind of went down the other night.
Maybe a little earlier than that kind of
probably. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. Is it's probably a little bit too early to be racing that hard. Maybe, you know, we save that towards the end of the race, and then, you know, that's fine. From what I saw, most of the replay and stuff that I watched, they were just those guys, except for maybe Gabe and Cedric, they were kind of laying back, biding time. You know what I'm saying? Like, not really pushing, but they were trying to stay up on pace and stay within striking distance, but not necessarily pushing it to the point where they wanted to, or where they were getting raced so hard. So I don't know. I'm red flag. You're green flag. Bryce, go ahead.
I'm a green flag because 2 reasons. One, they have every right to be there. As
100%, yeah.
And reason 2 is they also have sponsors they have to oblige to. They have responsibilities as people sponsor their vehicles that they have to perform no matter what circumstances they're in, whether they're racing for a championship or whether they're racing for 4th or 5th in the championship or 17th. It doesn't matter. They have a job, and it's to go out and win races, is to go out to perform. And you don't have to win a race to win a championship. There's been plenty of times where there's been a different winner who's been outside the playoffs, and there's still been another champion. So there's a time and a place, like you said, to race hard.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, if it's 10 to go, and if I'm not in the playoff driver and I'm, you know, if I'm leading you, if I'm in, hell, if I'm even in the second place and you're in 3rd, I'm not just gonna just get out of the way.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think it's more like on the playoff drivers themselves. Like, they kind of have to police themselves in a way. Like, don't put yourself in a situation to get wrecked. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Is it's not either of them. It's kind of both of them. You see what I'm saying? Like, neither one of them's at fault. It's kind of like both of them are at fault, because why are you racing a guy like this anyways, you know, this early and fighting this hard? You know, you've got bigger picture to worry about. So when I say red flag, I mean, I'm red flag on both sides of it. So, you know, that's kind of where it is for me.
Waving a white flag right now is what it sounds like to me.
No, I mean, I just feel like that both of them should have used their heads and potentially avoided the incident altogether. Like, because you have a choice as a playoff driver and a championship 4 driver not to pinch a guy or not to race a guy super close or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, give space. Like,
take a couple more laps to get around it.
Exactly. And go ahead, Bryce. Sorry.
And don't think that even if they're not in the playoffs anymore, they're not fast drivers. They can't handle their own and amongst the pressure being with the playoff drivers. And I mean, that just goes into our second segment here on Green Flag, Red Flag. With let's go this, Alex. Green flag, red flag. Justin Winters loops it on lap 1 and took out the favorite in the Xfinity Series, Radburn Shutters.
Man, so it's. I hate to really put it on him because it wasn't an intentional deal.
No, it's an accident.
Yeah, I mean, total accident. I can't give Justin a red flag because he was just racing, and I know that the thing for guys to say is, "Oh, you ran out of talent." Like it wasn't that. It's cold tires, and you're trying to get into line in a long race, and they're especially at Phoenix, you don't have a ton of time to be racing guys side by side. You got to get in line, get where you can get, and hold your spot. If you give up 5 spots on a restart, that could be the death knell to your chance at having a good run at this place. At the same time, it couldn't suck any harder for Radburn because he was probably the class of that series for the season.
He was good. I still think Brandon was probably the best. But yeah,
Brandon was the
Radburn had
most
it.
consistent.
Yeah.
Radburn was the fastest.
I can say that. In the early runs, he was fast. He was fastest for putting down a hot lap and shit like that.
Yes.
Brandon was faster on the longer runs. Brandon was more of a strategy guy.
Taking care of his tires.
So that full fuel race played right into Brandon's talents, Brandon's skills.
What he's good at.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so what are you, green flag or are you red flag?
The way that it's phrased, you got to say red flag,
right?
Because Justin spun him, but I don't think that Justin did anything.
He just lost control.
Yeah.
Here's my thing on it, and I'm going to go ahead and say red flag because at the beginning in the driver's meeting and before the race, I said to everyone, don't forget cold tires. You've got to remember you're on cold tires here. So I don't know if he got scared because Fritz dove underneath him and he was trying to gas it back up. Fritz dove underneath him and Fritz was all the way down on the apron though. So maybe that freaked him out and scared him. And I guess that's another reason, I'm kind of red flag because I don't really know why Fritz was diving down on that hard early in the race. I'm going to say that's kind of a red flag for me because I feel like he kind of put Justin in that situation to where, Justin did run out of talent. But it could have been because he freaked him out, man. You're going into turn 1 and 2 and you're all of a sudden you're 3 wide. And you're probably, if I'm Justin, I'm probably trying to gas up and keep the lead because, he's really good at Phoenix, sat on the pole for a reason. So I'm kind of just red flag for the whole situation, man. It wasn't his fault. His car came back up in front of Radburn. It's just how the cookie crumbled. It's just an unfortunate incident for everybody around. Bryce, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm red flag. Well, I agree with you too. The only thing I can say is, I know when I was in the field where I went in the first couple laps in turn 1 after a restart, I took it easy. I know being up front with all those guys is a little bit different. You're not really given that opportunity, but there's a point where you have to take the opportunity to ease in a corner and ease out, especially before your tires are warmed up.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I'm red flag that Justin pushed it that hard. Coming off the corner. Everyone knows turn 2 is probably the most treacherous corner at Phoenix. Even
Yeah.
when it was the old style, it still was the worst.
Yeah.
But I'm more on the red flag that it took out Radburn.
I would like to see
Radburn,
how that race played out.
yeah, I wanted to see what the battle would have been with Silver's Radburn and Brandon, because I think the only way Brandon wins that race, if Radburn was still in it, is if he teamed up with Fritz, because Silvers and Radburn weren't going to let anybody pass each other.
Right.
If one was in first, this guy in the second place is going to play gatekeeper, and vice versa. So, I wish that we would have seen a Radburn and Radburn toward the end of the race and see what he had. But I mean, the way he practiced and the way that he qualified, it probably would have been a walk away. But I still would have liked to see what Brandon would have had for him, what Fritz would have had. But yeah, I'm red flag for that incident. Yep. All right, so I'm gonna go start off with this one. Actually, you know what? No, I'll give it to Alex again because this is his series. So red flag, green flag. Jonathan Cogswell gets into Mikey Neal Jr.'s and ruins his championship hopes. Red flag, green flag. Alex.
Yep. So you guys know how I feel about non-playoff guys versus playoff guys. My response is going to come from my reaction to what this got blown up into post race. I wish I could watch the replay again to make sure I'm recounting this correctly, but as race control at that point, and Jason, you can correct me if I am recalling this incorrectly, but Jonathan and Mikey were racing really tight. I think it was off of turn 2.
Turn 2.
Yep. Jonathan was on the inside.
Yep.
And
he gassed up. The car kind of pushed up, and there was a little bit of net code in between them. They didn't, it didn't show that they actually hit on the replay or on the sim or whatever, but you could clearly see damage to Mikey's left rear quarter and to Cogswell's right front fender. You could see Mikey was running really close in lane 2. He was holding his lane. He was gassing up off the corner. He was getting ready to start going to the wall. They were still in the middle of turn 2. They weren't all the way off of it. So Mikey was already, he's trying to rotate the car. Cogswell's trying to rotate the car. I think Cogswell gassed up a little bit before Mikey did, because Mikey was still trying to get it straightened out to get it off the corner, because he's on the outside. It's a little bit harder. I think he had to wait on the throttle a little bit more, and it's unfortunate for Mikey what happened. He was pretty upset the next morning and that night as well. Said that this is the second time he's been wrecked by this team. In a situation where he could potentially win a championship. So he's pretty hot.
From where I was sitting, we talked about how a playoff driver and a non-playoff driver could race each other. If I were in Mikey's spot, I'm racing a guy that I'm not racing for the championship. There's no reason to run him that tight on exit, in my humble opinion.
I agree.
I'm not saying that the blame is all on one side or the other.
I think it was a racing incident, is my opinion.
And
it wasn't either one of them's fault, really.
Yeah, this is because I did put that on Cogswell, but I was so afraid from calling things racing incidents before that people were just going to shit on me for my decision. So I put it on him. I went and talked to Jonathan before I made the call over the radio, and ultimately it didn't make anybody happy anyway, so I probably should have just called it a racing incident. But being that one was a playoff guy and one was a non-playoff guy, it's not
factored into the decision to, you know,
it doesn't make a huge difference, but
you know,
I don't get, like, Mikey's a hell of a guy. He seems like a nice guy. The times I've talked to him,
super good dude.
and I get being mad, getting wrecked in a championship.
It sucks. It's happened to me.
Maybe
happened
me
to you.
more than most people, because we caught the guy on video saying he did it on purpose, and we didn't do a redo for that shit. So we ain't doing a redo for this, because in my opinion,
Wait, which incident was that?
Just what, mine?
When he got wrecked by Peacock.
Yeah.
And Peacock's, we caught it on video. I caught it. I went to Ed Osborne's stream and caught it.
Yeah, that's why Ed isn't. And that's why it blocked me on Facebook. But anyways,
love Ed though.
Yeah, I do too. He's an awesome guy, and I get it. I hold no grudges. He's super.
And
plain.
you let Taylor
No
come back.
deal.
I said ultimately it was your decision. Since you were the one that you were affected by it, and I said if you wanted him to come back or don't want him to come back, you make the decision. You were a good sport about it, and you said sure he can come back. I'm not going to tell it. You know,
I'd say there's some miscommunication there.
I thought you said he could come. I thought that's what we came to a conclusion on.
I never said anything. He said he could come back, and that was fine because he didn't run a full season anyway, so no big deal. But regardless,
I think you said if he apologized to you. I think that was the deal. He was supposed to apologize. You said he could come back.
He didn't. He didn't do that though.
I remember though. You said he could come back if he apologized, and he said he apologized. And I went to you, and you were like, "Nope, never got an apology." And I was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I think at that moment you were like, "Just for whatever." You were just kind of like, "Fuck it," you know.
Yeah, that sounds like me. I was like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I think that was what it came down to. You were just like, whatever at this point. Let him, if he wants to run, whatever. But that, you know.
Yeah, regardless on this one with Mikey and Cogswell, I get how mad Mikey was. I was that mad in that situation. But Cogswell paid the money to be there, and I don't think that he didn't do anything egregious. He was just racing, and as a playoff driver, being on that side of it, I drove more carefully as a playoff guy. Like, as a playoff guy, you know that he's not in the playoffs. I'm faster. Eventually I'm going to get around this guy. I don't have to do it in one turn. I can, whether it takes me 5 more laps, especially in that race, that's 312 laps, I think.
Yep, correct.
You got plenty of time to do this. And I think that Mikey might have got a little impatient with him. He might have got aggravated with how he was getting raced.
Possibility.
But when you have more to lose, you have to race that way.
I agree.
You got to take your time. You got to get there. And like we said, with 200 laps to go, like, there's going to be cautions. There's going to be pit stops.
Yep.
You don't have to run this dude super hard. Regardless, Jonathan was running him hard, but Jonathan's there to win the race too, because he doesn't get a trophy if he finishes 4th and 3 guys finish behind him. It's hard to pass at Phoenix. Yep. So take spots when you can get them, and I get that side of it too.
Yeah, I didn't really see the incident, but I can tell you.
Shut up.
I can tell you that going back to the first green flag, red flag, that I'm going to have to stick with my gun and go green flag here, because Jonathan has every right to be there as Mikey does. I mean, they're both racing for a win. Mikey doesn't have to win to win the championship. None of these drivers had to win the championship. All I had to do was finish ahead of the other playoff drivers. So I mean, I'm green flag for it. I mean, I'm green flag for the not playoff driver versus playoff driver issue, but I'm red flag for the contact made. But other than that, I mean, I have to stick to the gun that I made. No, I can't backtrack on my playoff drivers and non-playoff drivers racing each other hard. I can't backtrack on that, so I had to stick with my guns and go green flag on that one.
Well, and I'm just going to say that they were racing for like 5th or something at this point.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm just, I don't know, man. I'm red flag on the whole situation. Just because I feel like both of them could have done a better job. I get Mikey's point of view and his side of it, because when you're in a turn and you've got a guy right there next to you, you expect him to hold his line and hold his car where it's supposed to be. And if that means you don't get in the gas as early as you normally would, or whatever it may be. But I'm also red flag for Mikey running him as hard as he did and as tight as he did. Because you got more to lose than he does, at that moment and that point in time. And maybe he can reflect on that and see, I get he's expecting the guy to, hold his line and not move up. I get it. Like, I promise I understand 100%, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. It's happened to me. I know I got wrecked out of the first truck series championship. And it sucks. I was absolutely distraught, heartbroken, and, I was mad. I was, livid, and you lose your chance at a championship. I get it. Like, it sucks, but don't let that define your season. Don't let that define whether or not you come back next season, because Mikey said he's not racing again. He's got a team owner who's already paid his charter, and he's got money on the books for next season. It doesn't make sense for him not to continue racing, because he's such a talented guy. And there's a bunch of guys coming back and that were, OGs of the series that I think he'll have a really good time racing with, just straight up.
Yep.
The whole situation sucked.
I know what Mikey feels when it comes to that. I mean, like, even last championship race at Charlotte, I was, final stage of Charlotte. I think you were in the lead, Jason, but
we were battling. Me and you had been battling.
Pretty good. I was catching you. I don't know if you were laying back or what, but either way, I started to make some time up, and then I had an incident running with
Robbie,
with another guy, with Robbie, and battling for position on the dog leg of Charlotte. Fighting the same. We eventually met at the same spot and turned him, and I tried to keep him to where he didn't, get back on the track, or tried to save his. So I hit my brakes as soon as I hit him, and kind of just try to keep him my bumper so he could stop and we could stop together. Whatever. Well, it didn't work out that way, and he ended up going back on the track and ending his night.
Yep.
And
decided to end yours as well.
Yep. And then he came in, and after he got his all damage fixed, he came back on track. And by now, you and I are battling pretty good. And you were able to he let you by off of 2. And then I knew as soon as you got by him, I saw he was in front of me.
He started blocking. It wasn't
going to go well. Started blocking. Took me all the way down to the apron. Eventually, I had to go back up on the track, and I turned him back into the wall. So I know how Mikey feels without, because I ended up with that contact right there. That ended my night with Jason, and Jason walked away from me at that point. I got arrow tight heading into 3, and the 4, my front end was killed and hit the wall off 4, and that ended my night. So I know what Mikey feels like being distraught like that, because I feel like Mikey was dominant there in one of the final rounds of the playoffs.
You were fast at Charlotte. I mean, you gave me a hell of a race. I won
the first stage by like 6-7 seconds.
I mean, and I'll admit, I did a poor job in qualifying at Charlotte. I dropped the ball bad. Nerves got the best of me. I dropped the ball bad. I started back in the field, and I was biding my time, trying to wait so to speak, and kind of got. I guess I was kind of doing what Mikey was doing, just kind of laying back and just letting it come to me. And something happened early in the race, and I mean, I about flipped out. I think I got in front of you, and you got under me, and I got sideways. You remember that? You put the bumper to me and got me sideways.
Did I?
Yeah, you put the bumper to me in 3 and 4. Is in the middle of 3 and 4, and I mean, I was like jacked sideways, and then then you passed me at that point, and I was mad. I was about to wreck your ass at that point. I ain't gonna lie. I
honestly
mad.
don't remember this.
I was like, this son of a bitch just wrecked me for the lead after I worked this hard to get back up here and get around him. And then, so then it was all about calming back down. Luckily, I had an awesome crew chief, Nick Noggle, one of my really good friends. And, me and him ended up winning the championship together. And I sent the dude half the damn money. I sent him $250 because he helped me win the damn championship. That's just, I felt like that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I feel for Mikey, and it took me a while to get over it with Robbie, and him and I had some spirited conversations even right after the race. And I hope that we see Mikey and Cogswell if they both decide to come back to not carry this over.
I don't think Cogs will. I already know the Lucky Ducks are not returning for next season. They've decided to go elsewhere and race, which that's their right to do. So
I hope we see Mikey back. Then.
Congrats, to those guys on winning a championship. And I know Cedric is having a baby, so it's going to be hard for him. He said to come back, and then I guess the rest of the team. I don't, Doug Newbigging and Gabe. I don't know what they're doing. I just know Lucky Ducks is not coming back. John Pill has decided to take the team elsewhere. So
he's taking his talents to South Beach. And we're taking this conversation to the next segment, which is, are you serious? All right, Bryce. I want to see how serious you are. When we're talking about racing, we're talking about racing with our teammates. Ty Gibbs, Rex Brandon Jones. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, how serious are you about it? Tell me about it.
That is my "Are you serious?" moment of the week. I mean, not only the fact that you wrecked your own teammate, you effectively ended a chance to have a second Joe Gibbs car and a teammate to help you with the championship. You've also burned a bridge with Brandon Jones. So if
dumbest
you make
move ever.
If you make any Xfinity start, we all know he's going to Cup next year. So, if you make any Xfinity starts next year, or he makes any Cup starts, you know that he's coming for you. Or he'll make his piece next weekend, and you won't win the championship. But not only that, you just cost your grandfather, not like it matters, a buttload of money.
Yep.
Again, not like it matters. Because you're spoon fed. So it's not like money to you is a problem when your granddaddy owns a whole NASCAR operation with trucks and all the way from ARCA all the way up to Cup Series. It
don't forget NFL
and coach in the NFL. So you have connections anywhere you want. But I was starting to gain a little bit more respect for Ty Gibbs through the season. He started to mature a little bit, in my opinion, but this is kind of just threw that all back out the window.
He tricked you, bro.
Yeah, he did.
He tricked a lot of people there in the middle of the season. But
yeah,
bro,
he's my already serious moment. I have no respect for Ty anymore. Nope.
Yep, and. I've talked about him on here before. I fucking hate him. And I'll be honest with you, NASCAR is more fun to watch when not only you got a favorite driver, which I have to find a new one now, but you got to have a guy to hate too. And I don't hate Chase Elliott. I like talking shit to his fans when I go to races, but now I got a guy to hate.
Yeah.
And do I ever hate him? Not just the fucking worst dude that's ever been in the Cup Series. Like, no redeeming factors whatsoever. Everything about him sucks.
Yeah.
Just like
His attitude,
face,
everything.
like the way his face is shaped.
You want to punch it. You just want to punch it.
It looks like my fist would fit in there perfectly. Like it'd be like just like rolling
Just
into
make sure.
a memory
Just make
foam
sure when
pillow.
you fight him. Just make sure when you fight him.
I'll leave my helmet on.
Make sure he takes his helmet off next time.
No, I'll leave mine on, and I'll headbutt him into the next century. That
there you go. So tell us your "Are you serious" moment, Alex.
All right, so this one is probably gonna fly under the radar for all the crazy things that happened in this race today, because we haven't really even mentioned that Christopher Bell won, like, do or die, and he's in the playoff 4. But Denny Hamlin, a man that has still not won a Cup championship, he was well positioned. I mean, he dominated the front half of this race. Probably the fastest car for the majority of the day. And when it came down to money time, I know Christopher Bell's pit crew, they were doing stops in less than 10 seconds. It was 9.9 or faster every time. And Denny's crew, they were going 14 seconds plus every time. And frankly, if it weren't for his crew sucking ass, I don't care what kind of move Ross pulled, it wouldn't have been enough. But I mean, Denny probably lost at least 12 seconds on pit road. Without that, like, he's contending for a win.
Yeah.
Like, he was dominant. Everyone knows he's awesome at Martinsville. Everyone knows this. And man, it's hard to watch this guy video game around you and all that, but he should have never even been in that spot. If they got the stops done on schedule, he wouldn't have fell behind. Never been close.
Yeah, he wouldn't have fell behind. It would have been much better.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been taking his fucking helmet off by then.
Yep. So
but here we are.
So going into my "Are you serious" moment, I'm just going to throw this out there. Ross Chastain throws it on the freaking wall, drives around like a maniac. Like, seriously, it's a freaking video game move.
He made up 6 points on that.
I mean, he freaking passed like 4 cars, dude. It was ridiculous to beat Denny Hamlin out. That's my "Are you serious" moment. Are you serious that this freaking just happened? Like, is this real life?
Is
this real life?
All he did is, I'm sure. I mean, me and Jason are close in age. You might be too young for this, Bryce, but the first like simulator racing game I played was Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
And in that game, if you hit the wall, nothing happened. And if you got the Suzuki Escudo Pikes Peak version, you could tape the accelerator down and just leave.
Yep.
Which is basically what Ross did. He taped his accelerator down, and then he took a snooze, and he woke up in the playoffs.
Yep.
If that was a Gen 6 car, he did not make that turn.
If that was a Gen 6 car, it'd probably be dead.
He destroyed the car anyways in the process.
You wouldn't have made it halfway through that turn with the car stopping.
Which the one
can't believe the car held up. Like, that's kind of like, are you serious? The car held up because look how they fell apart all season. Like,
there's how durable those cars are getting.
There is a door at the start finish line. So, and it's the same thing. I was at Fairgrounds yesterday. That's how you go from the infield to the stands.
Yep.
And if he had been not driving it the way he was, if he had it if a tie rod broke and he was driving it to the right, I mean, yes, it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen, but it could have killed him. Also,
100%. Like he
if
was
that had have caught him where that door is,
Yep.
I mean, it could have been the worst thing we've ever seen in NASCAR.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, are you serious that you did what you just did for a freaking playoff spot? Like to move in? Like, are you serious? Like, come on, who does this? Like, it was just like a last minute Hail Mary.
It's not.
Fuck it all. I don't care about the car. I don't care if I get hurt. I just want to be in the Final Four.
Yep.
It's not the first time we've seen it either.
Larson, I mean, we saw
Larson
it at
did it
Darlington
last year.
Yeah, we saw it at Darlington, and but still, man, like this is at Martinsville, you know, flat track, gates in the middle of the corners, gates at the start finish line. I'm still just like, are you serious? I can't believe he even did it. So here's the quick question before we get to this final segment. Does NASCAR need to outlaw doing that?
Yes.
I mean, I think I have a rule against wall riding. So
iRacing in general has a law with wall riding. But
I'm on the same side. I do. It's hands down the single coolest thing that I've witnessed live.
It's cool as hell, but it's still. Are you fucking serious that he even did it? Is what I'm saying. Like it's cool as hell. Don't get me wrong.
It's one of those things. It's one of those things that has nothing to do.
I can't believe they allowed it. Yeah, it's
safety. That car could have hit. I mean,
exactly. We've heard it about this car. How like he hit the wall hard. Like he's going to feel that shit tomorrow.
Yeah, he definitely hit the wall over 100 miles an hour.
But what
in fifth gear?
What my big problem is if they don't say anything about it, every time they go to Martinsville on the last lap,
you're going to see it.
I mean, everybody should do that, right? Because it was a second.
Well, here's the deal now.
It was a whole second faster than the fastest lap that's ever happened there in cars
it's 2
that were
seconds
way
faster
around that track. Like,
I mean,
2 seconds.
I don't
2 seconds faster than the leader.
I don't think it's going to continue to happen. I think it was kind of like I think he's just.
Why wouldn't it?
I think he's just crazy enough to do it, man. That's what I'm saying.
Well, here's the deal, though. You opened up
it?
a can of worms because now you have the Xfinity cars on the same body. Saying if these Cup cars can do it, knowing there's suspension issues, why not my solid rear axle, my solid front end? You think I should be able to wall ride this car all the way around the same body?
What stops Xfinity guy from doing it for 3 laps or trying to at least?
I don't think their car stands it. I don't think the car holds up.
Turn 3 type.
But why not try if you're back there in 17th? They're like, well, I guess I'll just fucking Sonic the Hedgehog it. And
maybe they will try it. I don't know. I just don't think it. Honestly, it was such a risky, dangerous move. That's why I'm saying, are you serious that he did it? Because it was such a risky ass move. For one, we know how rigid these damn next gen cars, these Gen 7 cars. We know they're rigid as fuck. I mean, they're very rigid. It's been documented. It's been talked about for the whole season. The fact that he just threw it in there with caution to the wind, hell with it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Are you serious? Like, probably one of the dumbest, coolest moves I've ever seen.
I don't think
we'll never see anything that wild again. I don't think.
Yeah, think so. That's what I'm saying. I don't believe it'll happen again. I think NASCAR will either say you can't do it, because I'm kind of surprised they didn't already come out and say that's not going to work.
I'm sure
buddy.
It's one of those rules where they didn't have it on there until someone did it.
Exactly, and you see that happen all the time in iRacing. I mean, it happens to us all the time. We've had plenty of rules. You know, we got the freaking Noggle rule for God's sakes. You know, if a guy crosses the finish line and is he can be, it's clearly defined that he's the leader and wins the race, then it stays. You know what I'm saying? Like that rule's there for a reason. If iRacing were to take it away from them for whatever reason, you know, maybe an instant point after the fact, it doesn't matter, because we have a rule in place for that now, because it's called the Noggle rule. I mean, and it's because he won a race like in season 1 or season 2 by like God knows how many. It was ridiculous. He crosses the start finish line and like bumps somebody and gets a 2X and goes over the instant limit, and he had to take the damn race away. It sucked. But that's why we have a rule for it now, to avoid having to take the race away for somebody over something like that, something silly,
Yep. So the last thing, we cannot predict another bluegrass race until next season. So we're
It's
going
4
to
weeks
Phoenix.
away, though.
Yep, it is 4 weeks. But in the meantime, we got 4 drivers. We got 1 race. Bryce, who you got?
Chase Elliott.
Of course you do.
Only because there's 2
Because
reasons.
he's number 9.
No.
I think Chastain's going to get it done. I think he's crazy enough to freaking get it done next week. Unless Denny wrecks him. Denny might wreck him. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe. The reason I picked Chase is because 1, he's won there before, and 2, he's been the most consistent car all season.
Yeah, Chase is probably the favorite. I mean, going into it, if you hadn't already picked him, that's probably who I'd go with.
No way. I wouldn't go with either of those guys.
Is it a tie between Chase or Christopher Bell?
No, it's not.
So you think Logano's got it?
100. I put money on him before anybody else. This second half of the season, every race he's been in contention when every other Ford has sucked. It's not a Ford problem. It's a driver problem. And Logano is the one good Ford driver there is. And he's a guy that's willing to do what it takes, a la Ross Chastain. He has a championship under his belt. He's good at literally every single style of track that NASCAR has. Road course, super speed. Well, maybe I shouldn't say super speedway because he's kind of scared of him now, it seems like.
Yeah.
But I'm riding with Joey Logs, 100%.
I mean,
100%.
I like that pick. I mean, Joey's a good pick for sure. I don't know, man. Something about Chastain and this whole season, and he's a man on a freaking mission, dude. Like
he is. He is on a mission. I thought about changing my pick before we started this, but I've been rolling with Joey for like 4 weeks now, and I'm glad we all have a separate guy, so we got some shit to talk about next week.
Yeah. I think Chase is going to pull it out. He's been the most consistent car, most wins the entire year. Ran really good here in the spring. I think Chase Elliott's going to pull one out of his ass and get a second chip.
Chase is going to pull that wiener out of his butt, and fucking Ross Chastain is going to get totaled by Denny.
Probably.
And then Joey Logs is going to be sitting there.
I mean, I think that it's kind of, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Honestly, I mean,
I'm with you, Jason. I think that this.
So we're just going to leave out the fact that Christopher Bell hit 2 walk-offs, and we're just going to.
Yeah, that. I mean.
I mean, he's a hell of a driver, man. I mean,
he's as clutch as it gets. I mean, Michael Jordan Game 6 type shit. But I think that Ross and Joey are the 2 guys that are willing to do the dirty shit.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen Ross do it all season, and that's why I'm kind of like, if he doesn't get wrecked out by Denny next week or, somebody else, I think Ross probably moves whoever he's got to move to if he's there. If they have the speed, which, I mean, for God's sakes, Justin Marks has got to be ecstatic with the man right now.
I do have to say one thing though. If it was the old Phoenix layout where the checker flag is where it used to be, Chastain will try it again. Rip that coming down the final lap. If he's second place and leader is in front of him, he'll try ripping that wall again. And it's a longer turn. I don't know if it's going to, speed is going to keep it, but. He will. I mean, he would have tried again, but now with the way turn 3 is now, right next before the dog leg, where it kind of goes on the front stretch and kind of shoots outwards.
Mhm.
Yep.
And goes back in. I don't think he's gonna. That wall's too different for anyone to try it here at Phoenix. So this race is he's gonna have to either move somebody or be blatantly faster.
Well,
so
hey,
I don't think any of those funny games are gonna be a thing.
Hey, if anybody except for Bryce's pick wins, I'm gonna 8 times my money on the wagers I've placed. So Bryce, I hope you're the dumbest man alive.
You hope little 4-eyed Joey wins, huh?
I don't care who wins as long as it's not Chase, no personality Elliott. I hope I hope that Dawsonville horn doesn't sound for another 100 years.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I think he's I don't think Joey's gonna win. I really don't. I think he wasn't in any.
All right.
He was nowhere today.
Wait,
he was nowhere last week.
Why would he have to be? He already won. Why even wreck your car?
Why?
So
because you're still racing for a trophy, still racing for the purse, still racing for your sponsors, still racing for any of that.
Yeah, and he still finished in the top 10 today. So here's what we got, boys. We all took a different driver. We'll make it low. $10 wager each of us. Whoever wins, $20 goes to the winner, unless it's Christopher Bell, and then nothing happens. But if Chase wins, I'll send you 10. Jason will send you 10. If Joey wins, you guys send me 10 apiece. And if Ross wins, me and Bryce send Jason 10.
Yep.
We good?
Sounds good to me.
Thanks. I'm game. I'm game. I love it. Well, that's all we got tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us on the Bluegrass Race Hub podcast. I want to go ahead. I want to go ahead and thank our sponsors, CFM and Majula C Speed Shop, Roasted Gems Coffee, Kinder Performance Group, Nitro Racing, Huffman Designs, Scott Fritz Designs, Butt Kicker, and Red Rocket Buildings and Barbecue. Until next time, this is Jason, HMFIC.
I'm Alex. I'm not the HMFIC. I'm just some guy.
And this is
Bryce.
And I'm Bryce, and I'll see you next season.
And for everyone else that watches the show, we'll see you next week.